Hello. Can you hear me, Audrey?
Yep, can hear you perfect. We'll get started in just a minute. Thank you
Okay,
for being here today.
no problem. I'll put on my DOE background. All right.
Perfect. Just give everyone just another minute or two and then we'll get
Yeah,
started.
that's fine. I will share my screen after you do the introduction, right? That's
Perfect.
basically.
Yeah, that'll be perfect. All right, I'll get started as people keep coming in. So good morning, everyone. My name is Audrey Miller, and I am the program manager for the Colorado Small Business Development Center Network's Tech Source Commercialization Program. Quite a mouthful. I would like to welcome you all this morning to learn more about the Department of Energy's SBIR and STTR programs. The Colorado SBDC Tech Source Commercialization Program is designed to support science and technology ventures throughout the state of Colorado. Businesses are typically pre-startup through second stage. So if you have an innovative technology, you're likely a fit for our program regardless of your stage of business. Our program focuses especially on sources of non-dilutive capital, technology commercialization, and SBIR STTR grants. We also cover topics like R&D tax credits, government accounting, IP protection, access to capital, and market research. We do provide customized expert consulting at no cost to you, as well as relevant workshops, events, and accelerator programs. After this webinar, if you are interested in meeting one-on-one with an SBDC Tech Source specialist, attending our future events, workshops, or webinars, please visit our website to get started. I do specifically want to call out another upcoming webinar that we have with the Navy to talk about their SBIR STTR programs as well next month. So we are very fortunate that we offer our programs at no cost to you, and due to the SBA's FAST program, the Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade, and the City of Boulder. If you are located outside of the state of Colorado, welcome. We are happy to have you here. And we definitely encourage you to check out your local SBDC and resources for your individual state as well. So one last thing I want to note before we get started is that if you do have any questions throughout Eileen's presentation today, please type them in the Q&A section and we will get to those at the end of the session. We've left some time for Q&A. So anyways, Eileen, I'm going to pass it over to you to kind of get started. And share with everyone. So
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for attending. I'm very happy to be here and speaking to you about DOE, SBIR, STTR programs. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And then I'm going to go to slideshow. Is that good? You
perfect.
can see okay. All right. Hello. I'm here. I'm going to give like maybe about a 25-minute, 30-minute talk on overview of the SBIR STTR programs at the Department of Energy. And then I'll be happy to entertain questions. I hope at the end of this, you're going to have a better understanding about whether or not DOE SBIR is for you and what kind of, what's kind of involved in applying and also receiving an award from us. I do have my contact information here on the screen, so feel free anytime to reach out to me with questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about the federal SBIR STTR programs. SBIR was established over 42 years ago. And the goals are shown here, which includes stimulating technological innovation, addressing federal research and development needs, fostering and encouraging participation in the programs by women and economically or socially disadvantaged persons. And finally, increasing private sector commercialization of innovations derived from research and development. The federal government funds a lot of R&D for academic institutions and nonprofit research, other nonprofit research organizations. But this is a mechanism to spin that R&D out into innovation and commercialization. STTR is a little younger at like 32 years old, and it is a little bit of an add-on program. It's a lot of things in common with SBIR, but it does require a cooperative research and development project between a small business and a research institution, such as a university or a national lab. And it is also designed to foster the technology transfer aspect of something that might exist in a academic institution or a national lab and spin that out to a small business. But it doesn't have to work that way. The small business can own the technology or the IP and just be utilizing the research institution to advance the product development. Also, just want to mention that there are 11, and there's actually going to be 12 now, 11 SBIR programs across the federal government. These programs are all for early stage ideas that a small business would have for taking a technology and commercialize it. It is also non-dilutive funding, and that means that we don't take a piece of your your company, and we don't take your intellectual property. As a matter of fact, we protect your intellectual property for 20 years after receipt of an SBIR award. It's a grant or contract. You do not have to pay back the money, even if your research fails. We know that's part of research and development. So it's a really good mechanism for an early stage, high risk idea, is to utilize these funds to explore the feasibility. And so all of these agencies have different missions. You can imagine the USDA is the U.S. Department of Agriculture, so they're looking to advance technology that assists with the agricultural world. The Department of Energy is around energy, as you can imagine. NASA is about space technologies, but more than that. So what you should do is make sure that you're familiar with the missions of the various agencies. If you're looking for SBIR, there's probably going to be more than one agency that you're a fit with, because the USDA funds agricultural decarbonization. The DOE is interested in decarbonization. The Department of Defense is also interested in decarbonization. So just as an example, you should get to know these agencies. The other thing I wanted to mention is if you are working in the area of semiconductors and chips research, there's a new SBIR program within the Department of Commerce, which is NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technologies. There's a new CHIPS SBIR program within NIST. And then here are the agencies, and you can see that the Department of Energy is the third largest of the agencies, DOD, or Department of Defense, being by far the largest SBIR STTR program. In total, SBIR STTR programs are give 4.4 billion in awards, and there are 7,000 awards provided each year. So that's a lot of awards. The difference between the blue and the green is the green are granting agencies and the blue are contracting agencies. And the major implication of that is that the blue agencies may very well be your customer at the end of the day. They would be interested in testing and potentially procuring your technology, where for the green agencies, you really need to think about the commercial marketplace. The DOE is not going to be your customer at the end of the day. For example, we want to see you sell pivot to the commercial marketplaces and sell a better battery, a better semiconductor device, etc. Okay, so now getting more specific about DOE, our program is in excess of 300 million a year. We issue grants. You give us your idea if it's compatible with one of our issued topics, and it's novel, and you write a competitive application and you get an award. It's really your idea to take, develop, and execute and pivot to the private market. We do issue very focused topics, so you have to when we issue our topics twice a year, you do have to find a topic that you can be responsive to. Our topics, we have over 250 topics a year, so there's a lot of them. They're more wide-ranging than you would expect. One of the unique things about our program is that 6 weeks after the topics come out, your letter of intent is required. So you have to write about 500 words or less about what it is that you're going to propose. And then 6 weeks after the letter of intent, the applications are due. Very importantly, we offer an expansive application assistance program. We call it our Phase 0 program. It opens when the topics are released, and you will receive a coach that will help you put together your first-time DOE SBIR STTR application. On the right of the slide shows the DOE mission. Everybody knows that part of our mission is to provide leadership in clean energy technology development, but our mission is threefold. It also includes advancement of basic energy and engineering sciences. And finally, the DOE is tasked with nuclear security as well. So we issue topics in all of those areas. About SBIR versus STTR, you can have a nonprofit research institution partner do up to 33% of the work for SBIR, but for STTR, it is required, and the research institution can do up to 60% of the R&D effort for STTR. There are some PI requirement differences between SBIR and STTR, and there's different level of effort requirements, which I just mentioned, and for Phase 1, kind of shown here on this graph. Small business for SBIR must perform 2/3 of the R&D in-house. For STTR, the small business must perform 40% of the R&D as a minimum. The award always goes to the small business. The research institution or any other consultant or subcontractor you use, it flows through the small business as a sub-award. And there are two different pots of money for SBIR and STTR, and if you fulfill the requirements of both, you can apply to both programs with the same application. Our funding works very similar to the other agencies. The entry point into our program is the Phase 1 award, application or award. You have to be responsive to one of our topics. Your application should be around a proof of concept for your idea to address the problem or the need that's identified in the topic and subtopic. As I mentioned, letters of intent are due. The Phase 1 award is between 200 and 250,000 as a maximum. And you carry out your Phase 1 feasibility study over a 6 to 12-month period. If as a Phase 1 awardee, and your research is going reasonably well, 9.5 months in, you're going to want to submit your Phase 2 application. It's a bigger award, 1.1 or 1.6 million as a maximum. You carry out your research for about 2 years typically, and this one is focused on taking your technology to the next level, providing demonstrations, developing your prototype, and pivoting towards your commercialization plan. Some R&D projects take much longer than 3 years to take to market, and we do have a second Phase 2 award and a third Phase 2 award in order to assist companies whose product development is going well, but they can make the case that they need more R&D support. Eventually, though, you do have to wean yourself off the SBIR dollars for your technology and start to figure out where your cash flow is going to come from. We refer to that as phase 3. It's non-SBIR dollars to further your development, or it could be a commercial, it could be a customer, an acquisition, or a license, etc. But it's really any cash flow that is not SBIR, STTR program dollars. Okay, as I mentioned, we have 2 releases a year. You want to mark your calendars. July 8th, our release 1 topics will be released. As I mentioned, 3 months later, your applications will be due. These are the 6 offices that issue the release 1 topics. If you look at the names of these offices, you can see they're kind of deep sciencey, basic energy sciences. They're studying how material and energy behaves. They're looking for better instrumentation, plasma technologies, and much more. Advanced scientific computing is advancing high performance computing. The biological environmental research, they're very interested in how the biological and environmental world behave. They're looking for technologies that advance monitoring of the atmosphere, the ocean, plant bioimaging, and more to study the natural world. We have fusion energy, which is mission is to advance the field of fusion energy with its enormous potential. High energy physics and nuclear physics as well. So those are kind of our deep sciencey offices. Release 2, mark your calendars for November 12th. These 7 offices issue topics, and these are more along the lines of applied technologies. The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Office issues topics around detection of nuclear explosions, replacing radiological sources with non-radiological types of products to reduce the supply of nuclear materials that's out there in the world for commercial application. We are interested in cybersecurity in so far as protecting the energy infrastructure in this country. The Office of Electricity is concerned with our grid and the great modernization needs and decentralization needs that are occurring as we electrify our economy. Advancement of nuclear energy. Environmental management pertains to cleanup of the nation's nuclear weapons waste sites. And then we have fossil energy and carbon management, which is committed to the more efficient use of fossil fuels and carbon capture, reuse, sequestration. I also will finally mention the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, which is a big office, and it has the sub offices that people would associate with DOE: solar technology, wind technology, water power, hydrogen, fuel cell, batteries, and more. Okay, this is just a slide that shows the great number of types of topics that we fund, and they sort of fit into each of the 3 mission slots. I do want to mention in fiscal year 2024, part of our application requirements include a very short and focused write-up on the DEI plan for your company, whether it's something very focused, hiring an intern, elevating an underrepresented researcher in your organization, or doing training for your company or that type of thing. We do now have a new requirement for submitting a DEI plan. We call it the PEER plan, promoting inclusive and equitable research, as part of our application. This is what our topics look like. This is the Office of Industrial Efficiency and Decarbonization. They're part of that EERE office that I mentioned that has lots of sub-offices. Very importantly, this information, this blue table at the top, and it specifies the maximum phase 1 award amount. Don't ask for more than that amount. Make sure you pay attention to that award amount. Are they accepting SBIR? Are they accepting STTR? as well. You want to carefully read all the information on the topic. You are expected to be an expert in your technology area. They do include a lot of references, and you should read all the references. You need to be familiar with the state of the art of the technology in your area, what your competition is doing, why what you're doing is better, and why what you're doing is novel. You can see here at the bottom, there's a contact information. At the bottom of every subtopic, there is a point of contact. When the topics come out, you can reach out to the topic manager and really ask them questions that are about the fit of what you are going to propose with the topic. Really, you should limit your contact to that type of question to the program managers. I just want to mention that we do have a number of market research studies. You should check that out as well too, to see if there's anything for you on that page. Those are commissioned on a case-by-case basis, but they include a lot of really great information if there's a market research study in your technology area. So importantly, are you a good fit? How do you figure out if you're a good fit? The starting basis for a competitive application is, can you be responsive to the topic and subtopic pair that you are going to apply to? The topic and subtopic are identifying a need or a problem to be solved, and you really want to make sure that you're focused in on addressing what is being sought. So the top 3 most important application review criteria. Number 1, it has to be research and development, and you're developed with the eye of developing a technology that can be a productized. Your idea should be novel, never something that's been done before, not something that's being done by someone else. And you should have a very solid work plan. I mentioned that the phase 1 proposal is a feasibility study, so make sure that you have a solid work plan that links back to your feasibility objectives. Your team needs to be composed of the right expertise. Remember, we allow subcontracting as part of the award, so if you don't have the right team, then you can go out and find subject matter experts or other partners that you can subcontract out to. Note that the PI does have to be an employee of the small business, and the PI needs to be well qualified to carry out the R&D. For STTR, note that the PI could be an employee of the research institution. And what is you should understand to be able to tell clearly the story about the potential impact of your technology if the R&D is successful. I did mention that the peer plan is also part of the application, and it is part of the technical review criteria. It is a smaller weighting than the other 3, but it is part of your application review. I will mention that I just want to emphasize here that commercialization is a statutory goal of the programs. It is one of the important goals. We are required to evaluate the commercial potential of the SBIR, STTR awardees, potential awardees. Note that commercialization can encompass different things: licensing, patenting an invention, raising non-SBIR funds, investors, acquisitions, as well as manufacturing and selling a product, which is the first thing that comes to mind. Phase 1 does have a commercialization plan. I would be lying if I told you that this was a critical part of your application. It is weighed, but it's not necessarily a critical part of your application for phase 1. This is a different story for phase 2. But if you're not really focused on commercialization, it is critical for you to be focused on commercialization for the future success of your company for obvious reasons. So it's never too early to really dig in and start thinking about what you're going to do. Who are your potential customers? Who's going to test your technology? Who's going to potentially buy your technology? what is your competition out there? What is the industry, what are the industry pain points, and what are they willing to buy, and how much will they pay for it? Make sure that you have a tight IP, intellectual property protection strategy. Of course, SBIR, we protect your data for 20 years. We do not release your data for 20 years after receipt of an award. And more. Okay, I mentioned the Phase 0 Application Assistance Program. On the day that topics are released, we accept applications into the program. It's a very quick couple of web forms that you fill out, and then you get a call from our contractor who administers the program. Their name is Dawn Breaker. And they just make sure that you're qualified for what you're proposing, that you're reasonably responsive to what the topic and subtopic is asking for, really just a reasonable fit for applying to the program. We have a new Phase 1 application guide, which helps a lot with putting together your application. Oh, and I should go back to Phase 0 and mention that you have to be a first-timer to applying to the DOE SBIR STTR programs in order to be eligible for Phase 0. If you're not a first-timer, the guide will be a great resource for you. You can always email us with questions, follow us on social media, and very importantly, it's very important to be on our mailing list. You will get all the announcements about funding opportunities in our program, but we also issue other similar funding opportunity announcements for entrepreneurs. And I do want to mention the SBIR partnering platform. You don't have to be an applicant or awardee. You can go to this site, sign up, and it's a community. It's an ecosystem of innovators and partners, including potential customers, including also organizations that can provide you with business assistance, engineering design firms, other subject matter experts. I encourage everyone to go and register as an innovator or a partner. If people are here and they're more kind of in that partnering sphere, you should register on this site as well. You can meet a whole ecosystem of organizations and entrepreneurs in the entrepreneurial system. And I can't emphasize how important partnering is. There is an NSF statistic that SBIR firms are 50% more likely to be commercially successful if they utilize partnering. And partnering can take a lot of forms, but you should always be engaging with your technology areas, ecosystem, and seeing how you can create synergies between companies that maybe have better manufacturing technologies, maybe are going to be better at scaling up your technology, investing, etc. If you do become an awardee, there's a lot of resources around helping you with that commercialization piece. During Phase 1, you get $6,500. You don't have to even put anything in your application. You get $6,500 to, there's a DOE contractor who will assist you with various technical and business assistant needs. They'll do market research, help you with your IP, intellectual property, strategy, pitching to investors, market research, I think I said that already, pricing, etc. Cash flow models. In Phase 2, if you become a Phase 2 awardee, you get $50,000 to study your commercialization and execute your commercialization strategy. You do have to, that has to be a sub-award, so it must be in your application at that $50,000, and it's an extra $50,000. It's above that maximum award amount. And for Phase 1, you can treat it as a sub-award, or you can do nothing in your application, and then you would utilize our vendor. Maybe people have heard the term I-Corps. Maybe you all have taken some I-Corps programs. If you become a Phase 1 awardee, you are eligible to enroll in our energy I-Corps program, which we call Phase Shift. It's an intensive 30-interview customer discovery process. So very, very helpful. I do want to also mention that we do have high performance computing resources available. So as an awardee, if you need GPU time, you can get on our high performance computers and utilize some of that. Okay, getting to the end now, the innovation journey, it starts with an idea. You then prove it out on paper, and then you may build out your demo, your prototype, and then you start testing it. And then you start thinking about how to manufacture and how to scale up, and lots more. It's a journey. And there are lots of resources to help you along the way. I talked about the application resources that are available to us. If you become an awardee, you have the I-Corps, what we call TABA, and the partnering the partnering website. We have a number of commercialization workshops as well. They're on our website. So take advantage of the resources that are available to you. And then in general, I mean, there's a lot more to the innovation ecosystem, including the federal government and the private sector that can help you. And so you should really be doing your homework on the resources that are available to you along the way. I've talked about some of these programs, but the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy has a number of prizes and challenges. There are these great programs for entrepreneurs, Lab Embedded Entrepreneur. There's an Impel program. ARPA-E has its own funding opportunities, including its own SBIR program. As you get later on in your development, there are the later SBIR awards, there's venture capital, you can explore joint ventures. There are testing and prototyping facilities available in the federal government. You do want to continue to look for your potential customers that are out there. And look for your manufacturing partners. The loan program office should be mentioned as well too, which issues loans, which are really for like deployment, scaling up on a larger scale. I do want to, almost done with my presentation now, but it is an SBIR directive. It's written in statute for us to foster and encourage participation in the program by women and socially economically disadvantaged persons. We just really focus on supporting innovators, tracking how well we're doing, elevating awareness about the program in webinars such as these, and innovating in terms of finding ways to get out the word about our programs. And we're always looking for opportunities to elevate awareness to underrepresented persons. And we have a number of initiatives underway. And this graph here shows that we're sort of like slowly making progress in these areas. We are always looking for ways to accelerate these trends. But for women-owned small businesses, you can see, for example, we're sort of at the 10% as far as the number of the percentage of awards that go to women-owned small businesses. So just as an example, we do have a ways to go in this regard. What do you want to do? If you're really interested now, you're fired up, what are the steps that you can take now? You can attend events such as these. There are tutorials. SBIR.gov is a site by the Small Business Administration. So it's oversight. It's really about the federal programs, but there's a lot of really good information there. Your state, I'm sure, I mean, Colorado, SBCC, Audrey just spoke about all the programs that they have. So research the programs in your state. The states want you to apply for SBIR awards because they want you to get them and they want you to grow your business in their state. it's really helpful to go to SBIR.gov and go to the awards page and search in your technology area, and you can see which of the agencies have funded technology that's similar to yours. If you haven't started your SAM.gov registration, now is the right time because it can be bureaucratic and lengthy. You can also go to our topics documents, our closed topics documents, and do a keyword search and go to our funding opportunities page, open the topics, just to get a feel for what it is we funded in the past. And our online application guide is really good. It talks about the application process, how to get ready, how to write a compliant project narrative, a lot of good tips and pointers. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I'm hoping that you all have a lot of questions for me, and you can always reach out to me after the webinar if you have questions that didn't get answered. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Eileen. That was great. So I'm gonna pull up the questions. That way we can kind of get started on the questions that people have asked, because there's a few in here. So first, is the total funding pool split pretty much evenly between topic 1 release versus release 2?
So no, the deeper science topics that are part of release 1, that is a smaller, we get fewer applications and we give fewer awards. We probably almost give twice as many awards in release 2. So
Perfect. And then are there any Justice 40 goals involved in phase 1, or do they only arise in phase 2?
there are certain funds because that if they flow from federal funding associated with, I mean, there really wasn't any specific funding associated with Justice 40, but there are programs where they decided that Justice 40 applies. So when you read the topic, you're going to know because some of the topics ask for community, to show how your technology might benefit an economically distressed community, such as like maybe you're developing really inexpensive windows so that, people who can't afford expensive windows could have like more energy efficient homes. Or maybe you're developing a technology that has the potential for restarting, let's say, a battery manufacturing industry in the US, because the US right now doesn't have a big battery manufacturing presence. And you could talk about developing new industries in rural communities or fence line communities. So you can see when you read the topics about that. And then, of course, the peer plan that I spoke about can also be a place to demonstrate your commitment to helping underserved communities. So hopefully that's answered enough. And then the other thing I want to say is the bipartisan infrastructure law topics have a workforce development piece. And it's not really very important in the phase 1 application, but when you do your reporting, you're going to want to talk about, if you win an award, you do your reporting, you're going to want to think about future workforce implications of your technology.
Awesome. No, I think that was great. Any award notifications scheduling info regarding the fiscal year 23 release 1 and release 2?
I think you must mean fiscal year 24.
That's what I'm gonna guess also.
Now, the release 1 has already been, those awards have been announced. Release 2 will be announced in June.
And then somebody asked, they said they've participated in STTR applications with a university that led the applications, but none of them resulted in a grant. Does that prevent them from qualifying for phase 0 assistance?
It does, because even though the university led the grant, your name was the small business was the applicant. And so the small business cannot be in it twice. I mean, if the small business shows up as submitting an application, you can't be enrolled in phase 0. I do want to mention, I didn't do that, we have 7 Ask Us Anything webinars during, I said that there's a 3-month process, the topics come out, the applications are due. We have 7 Ask Us Anything webinars about the application process. Another reason to be on our mailing list is to come, you'll be invited to the first one. If you're on our mailing list, and then if you submit a letter of intent, you'll be invited to the subsequent 6 webinars.
Perfect. And then on the topic of phase 0, there was another question that asked if the phase 0 application assistance program assists in establishing credibility for satisfying application criteria.
I'm sorry, say that again. I was reading. I thought I was.
Oh, no, sorry.
Read
I
that
went to the
again?
bottom because there was another
Okay,
phase
I was
0 one.
confused because I was reading. But go ahead, ask again. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, it says,
Oh,
does the phase 0
credibility.
application assistance program assist in establishing credibility for satisfying application criteria?
Oh yeah, I mean that's what they're about, and they'll be honest. Like if they don't feel that you have, if you don't feel like you're on point with the topic or the subtopic, they might. I mean, they'll just be honest about how on point you are with respect to the topic and subtopic. And they're experts in our application process, and most of the coaches are scientists or engineers, which not all of them are. But they're going to be a very good resource for that particular aspect of your application.
Perfect. And then going back to the top, for phase 2 awardees, would the DOE loan office become a viable resource for capitalization funding?
Well, the loan office is really, you have to be pretty far along. You have to be ready for really scaling your business because they do like 100 million or that kind of thing. There is, I can't sort of recommend necessarily. I mean, there's a company out there that this isn't like me condoning them or whatever, but or recommending them. But there's a law office that has Are You Ready for the Loan Program office? And I'm going to try to find that link. So that seems like it would be a good thing to have because you do have to have certain things in place to be ready for the loan program office. You have to be far enough along. Probably if you Google it, are you ready for the loan program office? You'll find it will pop up. But I'll see if I can find it too while we're going through the
Perfect.
questions.
Yeah, I'll take a look as well. And then someone asked if you could comment on the negotiation process that follows selection.
The vetting.
The negotiation process.
I wish I could give you a lot of detail about that, but I've never been involved in it. I know that if you're selected for award, you get a notification of the intent to award. And then there's probably about a 6-week process, unless, there's complications, where you're dotting the I's and it's mostly around your budget and making sure that you've provided sufficient documentation and sufficient justification for your award. But it does take about 6 weeks, is my understanding, and then your award period begins.
Perfect. And then can you explain the differences between ARPA-E and DARPA?
Okay, DARPA is the Defense Advanced Research Production Agency. That's a DoD, Department of Defense program. And that was started first. And then the other agencies copied DARPA. And so we have ARPA-E, ARPA Energy, and that's around disruptive, because the DARPA was around disruptive defense technologies, things that could be like game changers for the military. Ours is about disruptive energy technologies that can help us like catapult into, the electrification era. They were just announced an ARPA infrastructure, the Department of Transportation. The Health and Human Service Department has ARPA H, and I don't know if there's another one, but anyway, we are copying the models of DARPA basically to meet the mission of our agencies.
Great. And then how does The DOE balanced the desire for domain expertise in situations where a PI may be early in their career or have experience in adjacent fields and see potential for innovation outside their primary fields. If the idea in the application is deemed to be technically sound, what is the reason for also requiring a PI to be an expert in the field?
Well, the PI should be able to conduct the research. I'm not conduct it, but also oversee it. So they do have to have deep expertise, I would say. But, there is the opportunity to build your team. I mean, like, for example, if you are innovating and it's a little bit outside your field, you probably want to find a subject matter expert to help with that whole translation of your idea into the new field. Doesn't necessarily mean that person has to be the PI, but make sure that you do have the right team, because when you're doing research in a new technology area, you really do need to understand that technology area as well.
Perfect. And then, oh my gosh, my thing went away. Sorry. Um, uh, and then it says that ERE says its mission on the website is to make net zero greenhouse gas, which means carbon sequestration, but are not all the carbon farming topics under BES.
No, they're not. They're throughout our topics document, but BES might have them, BER might have them, EERE will have they will have topics, but very importantly, we have fossil energy and carbon management, and there's usually lots of different carbon capture, conversion, sequestration topics are in it's FECM.
Perfect. And then if anyone has any other, that was our last question that's in the chat now. I'll give another moment in case anyone wants to add any other
I'm just
additional
gonna try to find
questions.
that link.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it.
I mean, it looks like there's some on right on the DOE site. Top 10 questions you should ask before you applying to LPO. So a good start. I'll put it in well, I should put it in the chat, right?
Yeah, you can put it in the chat. I could also include it. So, actually, somebody just asked, are the slides going to be shared with participants? Yes, slides and a recording will be going out early next week. And I can also include this link as well in the email that we send out to all attendees. So that'll all be going out. You'll have access to everything. Perfect. And then last question, how does DOE handle an NSF SBIR submittal that overlaps the proof of concept proposed to DOE?
There is no problem with submitting multiple applications that have the same scope of work. And in fact, I always recommend, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I would look for multiple sources of funding for your technology. That's why I mentioned the 11 agencies. And EERE has prizes, and ARPA-E funds. ARPA-E has its own SBIR program. So I would recommend that you try to pick a couple of opportunities at least and apply. Now, if you're in the good position that you get both of those awards, the federal government does not allow you to be paid twice for the same research and development. So if the projects are kind of the same, you're going to have to turn one down. Now, if they just sort of like overlap, then one of the awards might be whittled down in size to address the repetitive scope. So that's just kind of the way it works. It's totally fine to submit the same work to multiple funding opportunities. You can submit up to 10 applications to us in a given solicitation, which is a lot. I don't recommend it. But you might be doing the same work to address two different topics or subtopics. There might be some overlap in what you're proposing, and that would also have to be negotiated as part of the contract negotiation.
Awesome, perfect. And then we actually did get one more question. So I'll ask this before we wrap up as well. So it says Colorado has programs to help the non-metro areas via the Enterprise Zone Program. Does the federal SBIR identify and provide extra help for these economically disadvantaged and distressed areas of the U.S.?
This is a really good question. And one of the graphs I showed the underrepresented states, because in an ideal world, the SBIR dollars would be distributed proportionally around the US, right? But that's not the way it works. The three top states are California, Massachusetts, and Colorado. Colorado gets a ton, for DOE, Colorado gets a ton of our awards. We do visit, if you went to the SBA site, you'd see that we go on road tours. We actually just went to one. We do 5 cities in 5 days. And there's usually some of it is proximity, but we pick a state that's underrepresented as the basis for our trip. So we visited South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia 2 weeks ago. But I think that your question is also at the distribution around the state itself, which I think is a really interesting question and needs to be addressed, because California gets a lot of SBIR awards, but then they have regions of the state that are not really getting their fair share. It's a good question, and I don't have an answer for the intrastate kind of distribution, but we do look for opportunities for underrepresented regions of the country to go talk to them about SBIR. Yes, we do
Yeah,
that.
and I do want to note too, is on that same topic, the federal FAST program, the federal state program is, it is also to help encourage, individuals who come from, rural areas and, economically disadvantaged individuals to participate in the SBIR program. And so that's why we receive funding, is to kind of help work with you too. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
we're
the
here to, is to
fastest.
help provide support to those individuals. So
Yeah, and you are a FAST awardee, right? Am I
I'm
correct?
sorry.
You
Yeah,
all
that's
are
what
a
the
FAST
fast. Yeah,
awardee,
so yeah,
right?
we're the
Yeah.
fast awardee. So that's what that program was created for. And that's what we receive, yeah, our funding for. And that's, why we have this, why we're having today, is where you use that funding for things like today. So um perfect. Well, Eileen, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to note?
No, I think I'm good. Just make sure I put that link to host some panelists, so you might want to just put it out to everyone, because
Oh,
I can't.
perfect. Yeah, I can copy it and drop it in the full chat. And then also I will include it in our follow-up email as well. So great. Well, thank
All
you
right.
so much for joining us
Sure.
today. And hope
Have a
everyone
great
else
day,
has,
everyone.
yeah, hope everyone else has a wonderful Wednesday and rest of their week. So
All
thanks so
right.
much.